Happiness is not a destination. It is a trap. A carrot hanging in front of a draft animal, designed to keep you in perpetual motion towards something you will never sustainably attain. And the very act of chasing it, of making it your primary goal, of measuring your worth by it, guarantees a life of chronic dissatisfaction. This is not pessimism. It is a clinical observation of how your brain actually works, stripped of the comforting narratives that the wellness industry sells for billions of dollars. The pursuit of happiness is not a noble human purpose. It is a marketing strategy that has hijacked your psychology, turning you into a perpetual consumer of solutions to a problem that was specifically manufactured, so you never find the solution. And while you chase this illusion, you sacrifice the only things that could give you something real: meaning, purpose, the ability to endure inevitable suffering without collapsing under its weight. It begins with a simple question: what exactly is the happiness you are pursuing? If you are honest, you probably cannot define it precisely. It is a vague feeling of continuous well-being, of permanent satisfaction, of the absence of friction between your desires and reality. It is the idea of waking up every morning feeling energized, motivated, content, moving through the world without anxiety, without sadness, without the constant weight of existence. It is the fantasy of a life where everything flows, where your relationships are harmonious, your work is satisfying, your body functions perfectly, your mind is at peace. And if you could simply find the right combination of habits, the right mindset, the perfect job, the ideal partner, you would finally reach that state and stay in it. This fantasy is not aspiration, it is delusion. And it is structured precisely to keep you chasing something that your neurobiology makes impossible to sustain. Your brain did not evolve for sustained happiness. It evolved for survival. And survival requires constant dissatisfaction. It requires that you are never completely satisfied, because complete satisfaction means complacency. And complacency in the ancestral environment meant death. The mechanism is called hedonic adaptation, and it works with brutal precision. When you get something you desire, your brain releases dopamine. You experience pleasure, satisfaction, which you interpret as happiness. But your brain cannot maintain that dopamine release indefinitely. It would be metabolically unsustainable. So after a brief period, days, at most weeks, your brain recalibrates. The new state becomes your new baseline. What was once extraordinary is now ordinary, and the search begins again. Not because you are insatiable by default of character, because your brain is designed to function exactly this way. Studies on lottery winners illustrate this with devastating clarity. People who win millions of dollars, achieving what most would consider the ultimate ticket to permanent happiness, report an immediate increase in happiness. But within 6 months to a year, their happiness levels roughly return to where they were before winning. The money didn't disappear. Their objective circumstances improved dramatically. But their subjective experience normalized. The brain adapted. And what is more revealing? Many winners report greater long-term unhappiness than before winning, not because money corrupted them, but because the expectation that money would make them permanently happy was shattered by the reality of hedonic adaptation. They had bet everything on the fantasy that changing external circumstances would produce permanent internal change. And when the fantasy collapsed, they were left with the same unsatisfied brain, but now without the hope that something external could fix it. This mechanic is not limited to money. It applies to everything. You get the job you wanted. The first few months are exciting. Then it becomes routine, and you start to notice its flaws, its limitations, the ways in which it doesn't fulfill the fantasy you built. You start a relationship with someone who seems perfect. The initial phase is intoxicating. Then the novelty fades. You see their imperfections. Everyday reality replaces the romantic fantasy. You buy the new car, the bigger house, the latest technological device. Each provides a brief hit of satisfaction, followed by normalization. Your brain is not defective. It is functioning exactly as it was designed. The problem is that you are chasing a goal that requires your brain to function differently from how it does. You are at war with your own neurobiology, and neurobiology always wins. Schopenhauer understood this with a clarity that still wounds. He wrote that life oscillates between suffering and boredom. You suffer when you do not have what you desire. You get bored when you obtain it. Happiness, according to Schopenhauer, is not a state you can inhabit. It is simply the temporary relief between these two poles. It is the momentary absence of suffering before boredom or a new unfulfilled desire emerges. This is not nihilistic philosophy designed to depress you. It is an accurate description of how human experience works when you strip it of comforting illusions. And if it is correct, and all psychological evidence suggests that it is, then the pursuit of happiness as a primary goal is fundamentally incoherent. You are chasing a state that your own psychological constitution makes impossible to maintain. But modern culture has turned this impossible pursuit into a moral imperative. Not only is it okay to be happy, you are obliged to be so. If you are not happy, something is wrong with you. You are not thinking positively. You are not practicing enough gratitude. You are not meditating, exercising, eating properly, following your passion. Unhappiness has become personal failure, evidence that you are not working hard enough on yourself. This narrative is perfect for late capitalism because it turns your inevitable dissatisfaction into a driver of perpetual consumption. Every self-help book, every online course, every wellness retreat, every meditation app, every supplement, every life coach, all sell the promise that this time, with this technique, you will finally achieve sustained happiness. And when it fails, you do not question the product. You question yourself. You did not apply it correctly. You were not consistent enough. You need the next solution, the next level, the next hack. The wellness industry generates hundreds of billions of dollars annually by selling solutions to a problem it intentionally keeps unresolved. They cannot solve the problem because solving it would end the business model. So they constantly refine the product, introduce new techniques, new languages, new promises. But the fundamental structure remains the same. You're broken, we have the solution, buy it. And when that solution inevitably fails to produce lasting happiness, they are already ready with the next one. The cycle is infinite because it is designed to be so. Your unhappiness is not a problem to be solved. It is a resource to be exploited. And as long as you keep believing that happiness is the legitimate goal, you will remain an exploitable resource. And here is the darkest irony. Psychological research shows that pursuing happiness directly makes you less happy. This is the effect of the hedonic pursuit. When you make happiness your primary goal, you become hyper-aware of your emotional state. You constantly monitor whether you are happy. And every time you notice that you are not, every time you experience anxiety, sadness, frustration, you interpret it as failure, which generates more anxiety, more dissatisfaction. You become your own emotional watchdog, judging each experience based on whether it brings you closer to or farther from your happiness goal. And this constant monitoring, this perpetual evaluation, prevents you from being present in your actual experience. You are so focused on whether you should be happy that you cannot simply experience whatever you are experiencing without judgment. Comparative studies between cultures reveal fascinating patterns. In societies where happiness is not emphasized as the primary goal, where suffering is accepted as an inevitable part of life, people paradoxically report higher levels of life satisfaction. Not because their circumstances are better, because their expectations are different. They are not in constant conflict with their emotional experience. They are not judging every moment of sadness as evidence of personal failure. They can experience pain without the additional layer of suffering that comes from believing that you shouldn't be experiencing pain. Modern Western culture, with its obsessive emphasis on individual happiness, has created populations of chronically dissatisfied people precisely because it taught them that permanent satisfaction is possible and desirable, and then gave them brains that make it impossible to achieve it. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, reached a conclusion that directly contradicts the modern obsession with happiness. He observed that in concentration camps, The people who survived were not necessarily the most optimistic or those pursuing happiness. They were those who had found meaning in their suffering, those who had a purpose that transcended their immediate well-being. Frankl wrote that happiness cannot be pursued. It must arise as a byproduct of dedicating yourself to something greater than yourself. When your primary goal is happiness, you fail because you are focused on yourself, on your internal state, on optimizing your subjective experience. But when your goal is to contribute to something, create something, serve something beyond your personal well-being, happiness occasionally emerges as a byproduct. Not permanently, not consistently, but when it appears, it is real, not manufactured. This investment is fundamental. The pursuit of happiness makes you narcissistic by design. It trains you to evaluate every experience, every relationship, every activity, based on whether it increases your personal happiness. Does this job make me happy? Does this relationship make me happy? Does this friendship make me happy? And if the answer is no, conventional wisdom is that you should change the situation. Leave the job. End the relationship. Abandon the friendship. Optimize your life for your maximum happiness. This logic turns every aspect of your life into a hedonic transaction where only your emotional return matters. And it leaves you fundamentally alone, because all your relationships are conditioned on serving your happiness. The moment they stop doing so, they are subject to elimination. But deep relationships, meaningful work, any enterprise worth pursuing, inevitably involve suffering. They include moments of frustration, disappointment, pain. If your primary criterion is happiness, you will abandon precisely those things that could give you something more lasting than happiness. Depth, connection, genuine achievement. A marriage of decades is not consistently happy. It includes conflict, boredom, disillusionment, but it can offer something that no series of happiness-optimized relationships can provide. Shared history, intimacy built on deep knowledge, proven resilience. A meaningful career is not consistently satisfying. It includes failure, rejection, periods of doubt. But it can offer the kind of achievement that comes only from persevering through difficulty. If you run away from everything that doesn't make you immediately happy, you build a life of superficial experiences, each abandoned the moment it becomes challenging. And this leads us to an even more uncomfortable truth. Suffering is not the enemy. It is information. It is your psyche telling you that something requires attention. When you experience anxiety, it is not a defect to be medicated until it ceases to exist. It is a sign that you are avoiding something you need to face. When you experience sadness, it is not depression that requires immediate correction. It is emotional processing of loss, disappointment, the gap between expectation and reality. When you experience frustration, it is not evidence that you are on the wrong path. It is the inevitable cost of trying something difficult. But the culture of happiness trains you to interpret all negative emotion as a problem that requires a solution. So you medicate, distract, optimize, avoid. You do anything except allow the emotion to exist, inform you, transform you. Research on post-traumatic growth shows that people who experience significant suffering, serious illness, devastating loss, or the death of loved ones often report that their lives improved after the trauma. Not despite the suffering, but because of it. Trauma forced them to reevaluate priorities, deepen relationships, find meaning, and develop resilience. Not everyone experiences this, and it is not a glorification of trauma. But it reveals something crucial. Suffering can be transformative in ways that happiness cannot. Happiness keeps you comfortable. Suffering forces you to grow. And if you spend your life avoiding all suffering in pursuit of maximum happiness, you remain psychologically stagnant, protected from challenges that could make you deeper, more resilient, more complete. The ancient Stoics understood this intuitively. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote that the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. But he was not talking about positive thinking. He was talking about acceptance of reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. The Stoics did not pursue happiness. They pursued virtue, excellence of character, living in accordance with nature. And they argued that tranquility, not happiness, was the result of this practice. Tranquility is not the absence of suffering. It is the ability to maintain inner balance regardless of external circumstances. It is not being enslaved by the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. It is psychological freedom from the tyranny of your own desires. This freedom is exactly what the modern pursuit of happiness destroys. It makes you a slave to your emotional states. Your life becomes a perpetual quest for moments that make you feel good and avoidance of anything that does not. And this slavery is exhaustive because your emotional states fluctuate constantly, influenced by factors mostly outside your control. The weather, your brain chemistry, how much you slept, what you ate, random interactions with strangers, all affect your emotional state, moment to moment. If your goal is consistent happiness, you are chasing control over uncontrollable variables. You are guaranteeing yourself perpetual frustration. And there is another darker dimension. The pursuit of happiness makes you vulnerable to manipulation. If your primary goal is to feel good, anyone who can make you feel good temporarily has power over you. Addictions, from drugs to compulsive shopping to social media, all operate by exploiting your desire to feel good now. Toxic relationships, where someone alternates between making you feel incredible and terrible, creating intermittent reward cycles that are more addictive than consistent reward. Cults and extremist movements that offer community, purpose, identity, the feeling of belonging to something bigger, all designed to make you feel good while exploiting you. If your primary criterion for judging whether something is good for you is whether it makes you happy, you have no defense against these manipulations, because all work, at least temporarily. The alternative is not to pursue unhappiness. It is not masochistic pessimism where you glorify suffering. It is something more subtle and more difficult. It is to give up happiness as a goal and replace it with something more enduring. Meaning, purpose, values that transcend your immediate emotional well-being. It is to ask yourself, not what makes you happy, but what is worth doing, even when it does not make you happy. What are you willing to endure? What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of how you feel? This reorientation is radical because it frees you from the tyranny of your emotional states. You are no longer hostage to your own neurobiology. You can experience unhappiness without interpreting it as failure. You can do difficult things without requiring them to make you feel good. You can build a life based on principles rather than sensations. And paradoxically, this renunciation of the pursuit of happiness often results in greater life satisfaction than pursuing it directly. Not because you obtain the happiness you were chasing, because you stop measuring yourself against an impossible standard. You stop being at war with your own experience. When sadness arises, it can exist without the additional layer of suffering that comes from believing you shouldn't be sad. When joy arises, it can be experienced fully without the fear that it will disappear because you are no longer trying to cling to it. You develop what Buddhists call equanimity, mental balance in the face of both pleasurable and painful experiences. This does not mean that it feels good. It is not a disguised happiness technique. It is genuinely difficult. It requires you to give up the comforting fantasy that if you simply find the right combination of circumstances, you will finally be permanently happy. It requires you to accept that your life will include significant suffering no matter how well you optimize. That you will age, get sick, lose loved ones, face disappointments, and experience the existential emptiness that comes from being a conscious animal aware of its own mortality. No amount of positive thinking, practiced gratitude, meditation, or lifestyle optimization will eliminate these realities. The only question is whether you will face them directly or spend your life running from them in pursuit of a happiness that is always a product, a relationship, or an experience further ahead. And here is the final mirror that must be turned towards you. Honestly examine how much of your current life is structured around chasing happiness. How many decisions have you made based on whether something would make you happy? How many relationships have you abandoned when they stopped feeling good? How many projects have you left when they became difficult? How many products have you bought promising that this would be the one, finally making you feel complete? How much time do you spend consuming content designed to give you temporary hits of entertainment, distracting you from the emptiness you feel when you're not distracted? How much of your life is a perpetual quest to feel better? Optimize your emotional state. Avoid discomfort. And then ask yourself, what would you build if you stopped chasing happiness? What would you do if your criterion was not whether it makes you feel good, but whether it has value independent of how it makes you feel? What relationships would you cultivate if you did not constantly evaluate them based on whether they maximize your happiness? What work would you undertake if it did not require being satisfying every day? What kind of life would you live if you accepted that it will include both suffering and joy, and that your task is not to maximize one and minimize the other, but to find meaning in both? The answer to these questions will not make you happy. It is not designed to do so. It is designed to free you from the prison of chasing an illusion that keeps you perpetually dissatisfied. And that freedom, as uncomfortable and challenging as it is worth more than any promise of happiness that someone might sell you. Do you have the courage to stop chasing? Or is the addiction to the hope that the next thing will finally make you happy too seductive to give up? Only you can answer. But the answer will reveal whether you are living your life or chasing a fantasy that guarantees you'll never truly live it.